Hi everyone, it's Cari Kelemen, and today I have with me Linda Barrett from Houston, Texas. How are you today, Linda?
I'm doing great. Wonderful to be with you, Cari.
It's excellent to be with you. Now, I understand that you had a lot to do with the Trump campaign in your neck of the woods. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I started about a year before the election being interested in Trump. My first time ever to work nonstop for a campaign. I was getting very concerned of the direction our country was going in. My husband and I were very disappointed in everything Congress failed to do during the last 8 years. And so we decided to back Trump. We financially backed him during the Texas primary. And for the first time ever, I decided to just go door to door. I worked with the Trump people came from the East Coast to train us in Texas on how to do vote canvassing door to door. I speak Spanish. There's a lot of Hispanic voters in Houston. So I was happy to use my Spanish to reach out to the Hispanic community, whom were very, very misinformed on the election, on Trump's actual platform, on his policies. And so I did that. I went door to door, made a lot of telephone calls, and of course, for the first time ever, got on Twitter and joined the Twitter Trump train and met wonderful people like yourself.
Oh, I'm so happy to make your acquaintance. And I saw a tweet of yours today in French. Did I not?
Yes. Yeah, I tweet in Spanish and French. Those are my two other languages because I live time in France. So I'm reaching out right now to a lot of the Le Pen supporters who, bless their hearts, are fighting with all their might, moving everything that they can possibly think of to try to get votes out for Marine Le Pen to essentially save their country.
Right. Okay, so you spend part of your year in France. How often are you there?
I go there pretty often, but my residence is, of course, in the United States. But it's essentially our summer home. We have a historical home out in the country, and we're in the middle of wonderful Normand or Normandy natives who have been there since their ancestors, the Vikings, settled it over 1,000 years ago.
Nice.
So they're very much like Texans because they tell you, we are Normands first and French second. And I feel, since you and I are Texans, I know you'll identify with that. We are Texans first and Americans. So they're good, honest, hardworking, solid people. And when I first started spending time there, I've been going there nearly all my life, but when I first got my summer home there, they were more socialist oriented. They were very dependent on the government. They thought the government could create jobs. In the last 10 years, I have seen a transformation in the mentality of the northern French people. They've realized their government can't protect them. Their government is choking them with over 90% net tax rate on everything. Oh, when you add all of the different layers of taxes that the working class has to pay, it's over 90%. The police, I have friends that are French police. They say, our laws tie our hands behind our back. We can do very little to enforce our laws because we essentially have to protect the criminals more than the victims. So for the past 10, 12 years, I've seen a very steep, very disappointing, scary decline among the French people in their trust in government, their hope for the future, their pride in their beautiful, ancient civilization. Many of the schools don't even allow the children to sing La Marseillaise, which is their national anthem. And the people around us are very, very disheartened and very confused because they don't know what to do. Marine Le Pen was painted by everybody that was against her as a fascist, a radical, very much the way President Trump was attacked in our country. But it's not true. Right. She's a no-nonsense person. She is a French person foremost. She wants to bring jobs back to her country. They have almost all exited France and gone to cheaper countries like Poland, other countries, because of the rules and regulations of the European community, which has basically decimated the French economy. The French people, my plumber told me, before the euro, I could get a baguette at the bakery for 1 franc. 1 week after the euro came into effect, my baguette is 90 centimes, which is almost 1 euro. So it went from 1 franc to 1 euro. It's abysmal how expensive everything is for the French people. A normal middle-class family has to pay, about 300% more than the equivalent cost of living for a middle-class working family here in the United States. I mean, socks is $10. It just, it's very, very sad, and I hope that they find a way to change that and regain control of their economy to make it grow again, like we are trying to with President Trump today.
Right. Okay, so when I see clips of Marine Le Pen's rallies and you see all these French flags waving and she's got this huge smile on her face, is she tapping into the same pride of country that Trump did when he campaigned here? Do you think? She's tapping
into the working poor.
Okay.
The working middle class. The rich have already left France. Anybody worth more than 2 or 3 million euros has given up their French residency and gone to live in Switzerland or Belgium or someplace else.
Well, wasn't the famous actor Gerard Depardieu, didn't he famously leave about 2 years ago?
He's gone. Yeah, the richest man in France left, but it's not just the super rich. It's, if you're worth a few million euros, you're out of there, man. Because if not, you lose everything.
They tax you too high.
Yes, it's sad. So she is reaching out to the people that are still there, that still have to make a living, that still have to earn a paycheck to feed their children, to buy clothes, to pay their utility bills. She's tapped to the middle class and even the poor. And the French are very proud people. They have an ancient, beautiful civilization. There were humans living in France 1.8 million years ago. They love their heritage, and there's the socialist government started ignoring that in favor of the culture of immigrants, newly arrived immigrants that don't even speak French. So they want to get that back. They want to get their country back through Marie Le Pen, I hope.
Right. Why do you think that is? Why is the French government preferring non-French to the French? I mean, the non-French to the French people. Why?
They are malleable. They will vote for the government in power to continue getting their checks, to continue getting their free rent, to continue the status quo.
Okay.
So the socialist government is very strongly backing and, of course, controlling. Media is very heavily censored. If we complain about our media here, it's wonderful compared to the government censorship that goes on in France. I mean, our friends in France last summer didn't even know who Trump was. They thought he was just some rich lunatic trying to run for president. When I started to explain to them the tens of thousands of people that were going to each of his rallies, the huge turnout of people, the wave of populism that he was raising in our country, they said, the news here doesn't tell us that. This is the first time we're hearing that. So they're very sheltered. The government controls everything that they see and hear, except for the internet. I mean, those that can understand English and other languages, yes, they have a window to the outside world. But most of the people that don't. They just follow the evening news, which is dictated by the French government, who are the socialists right now.
Interesting. Well, I know Facebook has been censoring some of the French citizens, the ones that are supporting Marine Le Pen. Can they get around that too? Are there other avenues? Are they on Twitter? Are they?
They're on. A lot of them are on Twitter.
Okay.
I hope they're on other types of social media, but yes, Facebook is censoring them very much.
That's a shame. Okay, so tell me about the no-go zones in France. You hear a lot about those in the news. What part of the country are they in mostly, and how do the French people see that?
They are in large cities. Of course, they're in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
They're in Marseille. They're in Toulouse. They're around cities with a very heavy Muslim population,
mm-hmm.
where ordinary people haven't gone into those places for many years. So now the police refuse to go there. They're being bombed. They're getting Molotov cocktails thrown in their cars when they're just sitting in their cars.
Oh my goodness!
It's very, very tragic. If there's a war on United States law enforcement, I mean, there is a nuclear war on French law enforcement.
Oh dear!
They're keeping it together.
You know, I can't help but see no-go zones within a country as conquered territory.
Yes, it is essentially conquered territory. Cari, I think we might not call them no-go zones, but I think there's some of those places in Chicago and
mm-hmm.
New York and places like that where, maybe cops just try to stay away.
Yeah.
So I hope we get our country back, and I hope we get law enforcement to be uniform
mm-hmm.
for all Americans, for everyone.
Yeah, I think so too. So to the heart of the matter, on May the 7th is this second election. We narrowed it down to 2 on the 23rd of April, and now the election on May the 7th. What do you think Marine Le Pen's chances are for winning this election?
I think they're very strong. She came in roughly 2.6 percentage points below Emmanuel Macron.
Mm-hmm.
Emmanuel Macron is a former socialist government minister. He got into a little tiff with the socialist president Hollande over policy, and he left. He is a very wealthy man. He thought it would be fun being a minister. When it didn't go his way, he walked out.
Mm-hmm.
And he started with his money, his own political party. He has never been elected to political office. His speaking style is very dry. It's very stunted. He basically has no charisma to the people.
Interesting.
The only thing that he has going is his money. The socialists have anointed him. The socialists would continue essentially what they've been doing if he was. But worse than that, Francois Fillon, who is the Sarkozy candidate mm-hmm. from Les Républicains Party, who supposedly is the center-right, they hate Marie Le Pen so much that they have anointed him also. They have endorsed him.
Yeah.
A Republican Party candidate, after losing, is now endorsing essentially the socialist successor to the socialist president.
I can't believe that.
So everybody essentially is ganging up against Marie Le Pen, number one, because she's a woman, number two, because she's a conservative woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she is very nationalistic
mm-hmm.
and anti-immigration. France is in the middle of Europe. It is drowning
yes.
in all of these African, Syrian, everything immigrants
mm-hmm.
are basically savages. Yeah. I saw on Twitter a video taken by a tourist of a man out of a water fountain cleaning his private parts.
Oh dear.
One of these immigrants. We're out in the country. We don't see very many of them, but when we go into Paris, they're sleeping on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to cross the street when you see these people because they don't think anything of slitting your throat just to take your purse or even your watch.
Oh dear.
So It's nothing short of anarchy. If this open border policy continues and France continues to be basically a slave of the European community, which is controlled out of Brussels,
Yeah.
It's the end. It's the end of France as we know it.
Oh, that just is. Do the French people see it this way?
Yes,
they see
they
it
do.
as do or die. If this is do or die.
This is do or die. The very sad thing is that something in French culture makes it easier for them to give in to the status quo rather than fight. I think we Americans by nature are fighters. Sometimes even fighters to the death.
Yeah.
We started that under General Washington when he was fighting the British Army. That we were like mosquitoes compared to the Brits.
Yeah.
So we have that in our culture, in our mentality. They don't. The French mayor of Paris handed over the keys to Paris to Ambassador Bullitt, the American ambassador, when the Nazis were just a couple of kilometers outside of France. He preferred to flee and surrender the city rather than put up a fight. The story is because he didn't want Paris hurt, but there was no guarantee that they were not going to destroy Paris under the occupation. So I've noticed that characteristic, and also in our friends, our people that work with us, even professional people, highly educated French people, they say, well, if it has to be, then, we'll just deal with it when it happens. And so I hope that this is different. I hope this election will bring out everyone to vote to keep their country, at least for now. Of course, many people are afraid of leaving the European Union, even after Brexit has been so successful.
Right.
They're afraid. They're afraid to take that leap. So this election also is very much not only about Marie Le Pen and anti-immigration, growing back the French economy, but do we stay in a allegedly safe place as part of Europe, or do we just get a divorce and go out on our own like the Brits? So there's a lot of fear there.
Yeah. Well, at least Britain led the way, and they can see that all the fear-mongering about the British economy collapsing, if this were to happen, did not come to fruition. In fact, the opposite. The UK started to do better. So hopefully they can look across the pond and see that England did just fine. And if they feel that staying in the EU is safe, how in the world can they feel safe when they can't even cross the street in their own city, or they can't go out at night? I mean,
they can't. Paris nightlife is essentially dead, especially if you're a member of the gay community. There are gangs of Muslims down the Champs-Élysées. You don't have to go into the no-go zones. You can go down the Champs-Élysées. You can go in Place Vendôme. Yes, there's many, it's a militarized zone, even around our embassy, even around the luxury shops. There's military all over.
Right.
But at night, when people used to go out and drink wine, walk along the Seine River, that's gone. That's no more. The past for everyone. It's very sad.
That is heartbreaking. I can't imagine. How quickly did this change take place? The last time I was there was 2009. Has it been mostly in the last, 2 or 3 years maybe?
Yes. In the last 2 or 3 years.
Wow. That's so rapid. And Paris is a tourist city. I mean, isn't there one of their main industries is tourism?
Yes.
This has to be.
A large amount of their GDP is tourism. And so I do not understand how the government can justify allowing immigrants, savages, to roam the streets, chopping off heads, throwing people off buildings, raping, doing whatever they want. and still expect American and Japanese and Chinese tourists to come to Hermes to buy $500 scarves, to go to the Ritz Hotel, to have $1,000 dinner. Who's going to do that being afraid for their lives?
Yeah.
I don't think people will come anymore.
Oh, gosh. Well, I certainly hope that the French realize how desperate the situation is and that this is almost a turning point. There's no going back after this.
There's no going back because the electorate after this will be close to a majority Islamic voting.
Oh,
and so
gosh. Yeah.
They will lose their country. Currently, I just looked on Wikipedia, the Muslim population is reported at 10%. It's much greater than that.
Oh,
it's
my.
much greater than that. And they are very militant about voting. Whereas the French sometimes are lackadaisical about exercising their voting rights. So, yes, it will be overtaken. And in some parts of France, around Toulouse and Marseille, Sharia law is enforced by gangs of Muslims against Muslims. There's things in the local paper where you're a Muslim, you didn't close your little shop, your little bakery during Ramadan, they come and slit your throat the next day. And so if that moves from the south northward, it'll be the end of Western civilization in France. It will be controlled by Sharia law, and there will be very little that people will be able to do about it. It's very sad.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we will be watching on pins and needles what happens with this election. And Linda, I think you said that there was a Twitter account that we could follow. We'll put the link below, but tell us about that one.
The French Interior Ministry is very good about tabulating the votes immediately as they're reported from the furthest outlying little tiniest villages. They post them on their website. I will send you a link to the website, and you can also go back and see the election results for the tiniest village to the whole national results. They have a map of France. You click on the department or region you want to see, and then you click on the village that you want to see. So you can see the April 23rd results, and then you will be able to see the May 7th results. And during the election Sunday, they posted them every 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes it was updated, and they showed you, 50% reporting, 60% reporting. So that is a very useful website to follow the election on. And I'd like to ask the viewers of this, if you have friends in France, if you can tweet, if you can Facebook to any French people, please give them courage, please give them hope, and ask them to go forward and vote to save their country, because it's worth fighting for, it's worth saving.
I think so too. Well, Linda, we appreciate so much your firsthand experience and your point of view on this from someone who loves the country so much and gets to visit so often. So thank you so much for your time today. We deeply appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.